Hello, and thank you for joining Growing Tech Fast, the Org3D podcast, where we talk about growing tech startups with those who have grown them. Today, I'm joined by Franz. It's great to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
My pleasure, Holly. Great to be here on Growing Tech Fast. Doing great.
Amazing. Really excited to hear more about your story today, Franz. Now, Franz is the co-founder and CEO of Raise Green. For the benefit of our listeners, Franz, can you tell me more about yourself and the work that you're doing at Raise Green?
Absolutely. So I am the CEO and co-founder of Raise Green, and I've been working on it for going on 5 years now, about 4 years and 9 months. It is a climate investment marketplace that lets anyone invest as little as $100 directly into clean energy projects and climate companies. These are private climate companies that are developing solar on, at the community scale, developing energy efficiency retrofits for multifamily housing, for example, and then also climate tech startups that are doing sustainable materials or biopolymers or other types of applications of emissions reducing technologies being applied in the entrepreneurial sense. And we help them raise as little as around $50,000, as much as $5 million per company per year. And we're registered in the US under the SEC and FINRA. And I got at this work personally about 4.5 years ago while I was in graduate school at the Yale School of Environment. And prior to that, I had worked for Barack Obama for about 9 years of my life on his campaigns back in Iowa in 2008, and then ultimately at the Obama White House, the U.S. State Department to help negotiate the Paris Agreement, and at the U.S. Department of Agriculture to administer several of the Recovery Act programs back in 2009, which seems like ages ago. So all of that kind of learning and experience led me to this place where I saw a tremendous opportunity to get more people activated around the climate crisis by giving them something easy that they can do, whether it be investing their capital or using the tools of capital formation that have previously been only available to the most ambitious and the most wealthy among society. So really democratizing sustainable investing has been our charge, and thrilled to share it with you and your listeners.
That's really cool. Now I have to ask, because I know our listeners will be wondering and will ask either way. What was it like working for Obama? Can you tell us anything juicy?
Well, I did not work immensely closely with him. I met him a handful of times throughout my years of service. But there was definitely magic in the air back in 2008 in Iowa. And really we carried that enthusiasm and excitement all the way through the entire administration. And he's incredibly gracious, always driving home the message of the importance of connecting, at a one-on-one level and at the community level. As a former community organizer, he was a tremendous inspiration throughout the entirety of my time in public service. And really, ultimately, he signed the legislation that enabled the regulation that we operate under, the 2012 Jobs Act. We operate under, regulation crowdfunding here in the U.S. And then, of course, worked with him and our team at the State Department to negotiate the Paris Agreement, which really is the foundation of, the global regime to tackle the climate crisis. So everything about those years continues to inspire me today. We had a great phrase on the campaign back in Iowa, and it was respect, empower, and include. And that really has been a core piece of my morality and inspiration ever since.
I love that. That's amazing and really exciting. I guess my follow-up question would be, what was your biggest takeaway, not just working for or with Obama, but working on such an impactful project? How has that affected you, and what have you taken away since?
I think the biggest takeaway for me has been that building our economy and society by giving everyone a fair shot and really leveling the playing field so that innovation and technological as well as societal advancement can come from everybody being involved and having their voice be heard. That is really the kind of takeaway that has stuck with me, and really that's at the core of what we've built at Raise Green as well.
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. So back on to Raise Green now. What is your favorite part about working in the climate tech space right now?
Well, it's the promise and the peril both at once. This really is the decisive decade in the climate emergency. Our shared future is at stake here, and we all really want something to do that we can act on to help. And it's just often difficult to figure out what exactly that is, because the scale of the climate impacts we're already seeing are hitting every corner of the world, every sector of the economy. They're fueling conflicts, they're driving up energy costs and inflation. And so, it to me is the challenge of our lifetime. And within my lifetime, personally, we will have a clear read on how successful we've been at tackling this problem, because the emissions that have already been baked into the atmosphere since the dawning of the Industrial Revolution, those are being realized now, and they will be for the next 20 or 40 years. But by the time I'm old and gray, hopefully I'm lucky enough to get there. We'll see if these emissions reductions that we're putting in place now have been successful. And so I feel that is my life's work, and ultimately should and hopefully is the life's work of many more millions and millions, billions, frankly, of folks across the world.
For sure. A lot of people talk about how individually everyone can impact this huge problem. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have advice for people and what they should do individually to help?
Yeah, definitely. And in reality, this is a collective action problem. The technologies, 80 or 85% of the technologies that we need between now and 2030 to reduce emissions at the pace that is necessary to avoid catastrophic warming are available.
Yeah.
So those technologies exist. We just have to pay for them and deploy them in our on our homes, replace our boilers, replace our gas stoves, put solar on the roof, get an electric vehicle, and then decarbonize the grid so that when we're charging it, it is using zero or no emission electricity, and so on and so on. And those are all things that individuals can do. In the US, we've just put in place the most historic climate investment in history. That is expected to catalyze more than $1 trillion in investing over the next 10 years. And we at Raise Green want to make that investment opportunity available to everyone for as little as $100. And so, 91% of adults on the planet today have access to a smartphone, and they have it within arm's reach, almost every hour of every day. And just taking a few minutes and investing a few $100 can add to the collective action response that helps us respond at a societal level.
100%. Okay. And I guess, do you think people are concerned enough about this? What being in such a central point of this issue? What is your stance on people's worry or concern over the climate?
Deep question.
Yeah.
um, so we look at some of the polling that Morgan Stanley has done, where 85% of individual investors and 99% of millennials that they polled want more sustainable investment options, which is a pretty overwhelming statistic.
Sure.
But I think that what we have is a bit of a perception issue where we all sort of perceive ourselves as wanting to do something about this problem, and then we struggle to respond to what's called the 15-minute problem. So when you have a broken gas boiler in your house, you're not likely to spend more than 15 minutes researching your alternatives because you're cold and you got to get that thing replaced. And so you're going to pick probably the cheapest or the easiest option. And if that isn't a zero emissions electric heat pump, for example, because it's out of stock or they haven't supplied enough of them in your your local provider, you're going to go with whatever's easiest.
Yeah.
And so the challenge we're trying to surmount is let's enable folks to align their perceived willingness to act on this problem with the ease of doing it. And I think we're making tremendous progress, not just at Raise Green, but across the entire climate tech ecosystem.
For sure. So important to do and make it accessible for everyone, I guess. Okay. Back to you now and your approach to startup life. Were there any moments, whether it's at Raise Green or before, that triggered a change in your thinking or approach to your startup life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't shared this very widely, but around 2016, in the fall, not only had Donald Trump been elected president, and I was going to be leaving my position as a political appointee under the Obama administration, but I also tragically lost my sister in a car accident.
Gosh.
And it was a real turning point in my life, totally devastating, still difficult to talk about today, but it did sort of set me on a course of realizing that the perception of risk that we have about our professional lives, and even our personal reputations and lives as well, is really sometimes false. At the end of the day, what we think is dangerous to our social capital or our financial well-being really is just a choice that we make. What our tolerance for risk and opportunity is, and so that was a turning point in my life, absolutely, and frankly, led me to where I am today, and launching a company, building it from scratch, and fighting through the difficulties that come along with the entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that, Franz. Really insightful, and thanks for sharing that publicly. It's inspirational to hear about how some really awful things that happened triggered such a pivotal and massive turning point in your life that has been so successful, which is really great to hear.
Well, thanks for saying that.
No worries. So one question I ask on pretty much every episode of the podcast I've done is, if you could go back and speak to your 20-year-old self and give yourself some advice, whether that's in the startup world or in life, what would you tell yourself?
Well, as a 20-year-old, I really gave the government my 20s, and actually, I would, yeah. So I would have not changed anything about those years from a professional standpoint, because I'm very proud of that service and that time. But I do think I would have, as I was just reflecting on, advised myself at a younger age, take more risks. Do things that you and not physical risks, but professional and uh, social risks. Put yourself out there in a way that is authentic and that gives people an opportunity to get to know you for who you are, and tell the truth about your views. Speak it, openly, because that's the iteration that you can do, privately and quietly by yourself, but happens much more quickly, and you can learn a lot faster by sharing more openly. So that would be some advice I might give
Good
my
advice.
20-year-old self.
Good advice. I like it. I asked that because we have a lot of listeners that are either aspiring entrepreneurs or younger people in the space. I think it's always helpful to hear from those guys who have done it, for me as well. So, okay. Another question I love to hear. What has been the absolute best moment in your career since you started Raise Green? Is there anything that springs to mind?
Well, just 2 weeks ago, we launched our 23rd securities offering, and it filled 4 times faster than any previous offering that we've done on the marketplace. And it's now almost 150% oversubscribed.
Wow.
And so, I think that the best is yet to come. But that was a pretty great, shot in the arm and booster, to keep us grinding away and building a community around climate investing, that really is the core, I think, for an inclusive clean energy transition. But there have been a lot of high points. Winning Startup Yale, which originally gave us our seed capital.
Nice.
Getting our first offering listed, getting our FINRA and SEC registration completed, and then finding our chief investment officer and co-founder Jackie Logan, who's been an incredible inspiration and executor on the team. There have been many highs, and also many lows. So,
of course,
but those are a few of the top ones.
Absolutely, there's definitely many highs, many lows, but I guess it sounds like it's been worth it building up to that great moment recently. So that's really good to hear. Okay, so I've said this now 3 times, but a third question I love asking is regarding your role models. So you can have one, you can have a few. Who do you look up to, and why?
Well, I definitely look up to President Obama. He's not only rhetorically been an incredible inspiration, but also, just through his acts, the way he carries himself, and what he chooses to put his energy behind, and has, for as long as I've been aware of him, and all the way back, and the level of humility as well that he brings to the work of improving public service, serving the country, and leading us to historic achievements like the Paris Agreement on climate change. So yeah, he's definitely up there.
Sure.
And then, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, my parents are really tremendous role models for me. My mom is an artist and art historian. And so, my artistic side is truly inspired by what she has done and continues to do. She speaks 7 languages, plays like 5
Wow.
instruments. I don't know how she does it, but
That's so cool.
yeah. And then my dad is an environmental planning consultant and also did public service at the county level. And so, a lot of the environmental ethos that I, was instilled with as a kid has stuck with me ever since and continues to drive me as well.
Sure. That's really nice to hear. And then lastly, what are some of the best pieces of advice you've given in your career, you've been given by someone else in your career?
One of my mentors actually back at USDA, who really I would attribute my government service to, because she took a chance on me coming off of the campaign. Krista Harden is her name. She was the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture in the Obama years. She once told me that pick your battles, and that, I think, and then when you do pick them, win. So basically, you can let a lot of stuff go, and it's okay to fail if you've fought valiantly. But if you really pick your battles that you want, that matter the most to you, and you pour your heart and soul into those, even if you fail, you've given it everything you can. So that stuck with me. And then one other was my very first boss out of undergrad was at a law firm. And she was a very shrewd lawyer. She used to tell me, or she used to tell clients that would come in, well, are you running a charity or a business? And just the clarity of purpose about what you're trying to accomplish through a certain act, whether it be activism or entrepreneurship or volunteer work or your professional creed and mission. I think there's a lot of value to just getting clear about your objective and then driving solely toward that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's really cool. Well, that's all my questions, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I've loved hearing your story, what you're trying to do at Raise Green and how much you've achieved in the last 5 years, and getting some of your wisdom. It's been really helpful.
Oh, well, Holly, it's an absolute pleasure. And if I may, I actually would love to share an opportunity with any listeners that are interested. We are actually opening up a community financing round for Raise Green, which we have not done before. So we're basically putting our company stock where our values are, and we're going to be making an investment opportunity available to the general public under Reg CF in the US. So if you're interested in investing, check out our website at raisegreen.com. There'll be a link there where you can go on and look at it. And great to spend some time with you, Holly, and hope you have a wonderful 2023.
Thanks, Franz. I'll include that link in the YouTube description and on our LinkedIn as well, just so it's there for everyone.
Much appreciated.
Great. Thanks to everyone for listening, and tune in next time for Growing Tech Fast.